Hi, my name's Carole. Welcome to Hummingbird Spot. This is the second video of my first trip to Ecuador to photograph hummingbirds. If you haven't seen the previous episodes, you can click up there. The next stop was the Sachatamia Lodge, where we would stay for a few nights. Now, Sachatamia is a private reserve that is in the cloud forest very near the city of Mindo, and it's just south of the equator. The hummingbird viewing area was fantastic. There were lots of different hummingbirds that came there. There is a little area where you could sit, there were chairs, there was a table where you could put your camera equipment, and you could just sit there and enjoy the hummingbirds coming to the flowers and the feeders, or they made it very, very easy to photograph them. Now, usually I don't spend a lot of time sitting and photographing other birds, but tanagers are really beautiful birds, so I couldn't help but sit there and look at them for a little while. I did get a picture of this Blue-gray Tanager who was just taking off, and also a female Lemon-rumped Tanager. The Purple-bibbed Whitetip was the first new species I saw here. I could only catch a female on the feeder, and one of the pictures of the male, where you can really see his gorget feathers, of course has a branch and a leaf in the way, but I'm showing it to you anyway. This bird has central tail feathers that has white tips, so when he sits and closes his tail feathers, you can see that white sticking out, and that makes him really easy to spot. You only find the purple-bibbed whitetip in Ecuador and Colombia. The velvet-purple coronet, wow, my eyes bulged out when I first saw this bird. I had never imagined how beautiful this coronet could be in person. It's very difficult to photograph because the colors are so brilliant that a lot of times the camera just doesn't pick up the nuances no matter how you photograph it. But it is truly a beautiful bird. Now, all the coronets do the same thing. When they first land, they land with their wings up in the air. They like salute. They hold their wings open just for a second, so every photographer is always trying to get them with their wings up. We saw another coronet, the chestnut-breasted coronet, when we were in Peru, but that coronet is only found on the eastern slope of the Andes. The velvet-purple coronet, they're only found on the western slope of the Andes. The white booted racket-tail was the next beautiful bird that we found here. Now, you saw the Peruvian booted racket-tail when we were in Peru. Now, here is another species that's separated by the Andes. The Peruvian booted racket-tail has orange boots, and that's found on the east side of the Andes Mountains. The white booted racket-tail has white boots, and you find this one on the west side of the Andes. The Violet-tailed Sylph, what a magnificent creature with a long, long tail with violet at the tip. Again, very similar to another one you found on the west side of the Andes. We photographed the long-tailed Sylph, which looks pretty much just like the violet-tailed Sylph, except the tail is all blue, where the violet-tailed Sylph, the end of the tail is purple. The female violet-tailed Sylph is a gorgeous little bird in her own right. She doesn't have the long tail, but she's got some beautiful colors. There are a lot of examples of hummingbirds on the east side and the west side of the Andes Mountains that are very similar, but yet they're a little different because they've had time to evolve a little bit further once they were separated. You know, the human beings in our modern form have really only been around for a couple 100,000 years, where it's thought that hummingbirds branched out to be its own type of bird like 22 million years ago. I mean, that's enough time for the hummingbirds to have evolved the long beak that goes into the long flowers, and for lots of different flowers to evolve with the birds. You've got the sickle bills that have evolved to get that nectar out of the heliconias. You know, it takes a long time to do that, and they've been around long enough. So the ancestors of the birds on the east side and the west side of the Andes were probably separated by the Andes being formed, and then some of them being trapped on the west side and the others being trapped on the east side. So they've had time to evolve even further into what they are now. The other bird I got to see here was the purple-throated Woodstar. These birds are so cute. They're tiny and they look like bees when they're flying. They sort of bumble around. They fly so slowly and they sound different. You can always tell when one's around because you hear it. You don't even have to look. Make sure you subscribe and hit that bell, because next Sunday we're going to take a little break in this Ecuador trip because I'm going to be in Brazil and I've been informed that there's decent Wi-Fi in some of the places we're staying. So I'm going to upload some videos so you can see what I'm doing in Brazil for the next 2 weeks. See you then.